Hi there. Hopefully, you just watched the video going over the to-do list of things that you need to do in the Google Classroom. Side note, having my picture down here in that little corner, it's really messing me up. And then when I go back and watch it, my eyes are all over the place and hands are all over the place. So hopefully it's not too bad for you. All right, so to begin with, okay, your Google Classroom looks like this, right? And you're noticing the first assignment's actually listed as number 2 because the first thing I want you to do is I want you to go over the to-do list. So when you click on number 2, you're going to notice that this is all about primary and secondary sources. There's a link for a Pear Deck and there's a link for a Google Doc. The Google Doc is simply some helpful guidelines for you to be able to go back to. Think of these as notes of what a primary source is and what a secondary source is. The Pear Deck is the main chunk of the activity. And for the Pear Deck, you're actually going to click on the link, sign in with Google, and you'll remember from class, you'll see the little smiley faces to tell me what your mood is, or you can skip that. And then the Pear Deck, you can work at your own pace. The only thing that I encourage you to do, if you are going to start this assignment, I would try to finish it within that same day at least. Every once in a while, you might lose that information on Pear Deck, but if that happens, just contact me. So the Pear Deck, your slides are going to look something like this, okay? So I'm not going to verbally walk through every single slide, but I am definitely going to hit up these first ones. There's a lot of content, a lot of information in them. So if you want to go ahead and kind of go through things with me, that would be great. And you can feel free to pause me as well and do the Pear Deck at the same time, or watch and then go do the Pear Deck when we're finished. The first thing that you're going to do on the Pear Deck is you are going to write a diary entry about an interesting event that you have witnessed with your own eyes. And by interesting, it can be something really, really tiny, like a bug that you saw in your backyard over the weekend, or something huge, right? Maybe you witnessed a car accident. So you're going to type your account in off to the side on Pear Deck, and I want you to really work on including, what happened, and this is all listed off to the side. Where did this event occur? When, or, as close as you can remember, what day and time, who was involved, and why or how did this event occur? You can make your entry short. It doesn't have to be 3 pages long. But make sure it's something that you personally witnessed, not something you heard about, but you witnessed with your own eyes. Okay, from there, I want you to think about a primary and a secondary source. So hopefully in elementary school, you talked about these two terms. A primary source, that word primary goes back to first. It's created by someone who witnessed the event. Whereas a secondary source would be created by someone who was not present for that actual event. So on your Pear Deck, I want you to think about your diary entry. Was it a primary source or a secondary source? I'm not going to give you the answer right now, but I will follow up after this week with a key so that you can go back and review things if needed. So a principal of a school, for example, must rely on primary and secondary sources to issue discipline for a fight in the lunchroom. Let's say we're back to school as normal. There's a fight in the cafeteria. A principal is going to need to be using witnesses of the event and then maybe people who heard about the event in order to get to the bottom of it. An insurance adjuster, someone who takes care of insurance claims, is also going to rely on primary and secondary sources to determine whether a person should get money for a car accident or for damaged property. On your Pear Deck, I want you to think of an example of another profession that might rely on primary and secondary sources. Again, I'm not going to give you the answer right now, but give it your best shot. So a primary source is made by a person who witnessed the event. Okay, these could be a journal that someone has kept, a diary, a speech, a letter, a memo, in modern times, an email, even a text message. It could be an artifact, something tangible, a piece of clothing, If we're talking about ancient times, pottery, toys, tools, a ring. It could be an official document. Official documents are things like when you're born, you're issued a birth certificate. When you die, your family's given a death certificate, a driver's license, legal papers. If you get married, you get a marriage license. All of those are considered primary sources. If you see an event happen, you take a picture of it or a video of it, right? Everyone holds up their phones now, takes videos of everything. Those are actually now primary sources. An autobiography, if you wrote about your life, or a memoir. An oral history, the word oral means you're speaking it. And then newspaper articles from a historical time period. Those would be primary sources. So for this next part, you're going to draw lines and see if you can figure out the items in, I guess, this off-white tannish color. You're going to try to match them up with the definitions. So you have to figure out oral history, for example, a spoken history. What would be the definition of that? And you just draw a line on your screen. So again, I'll go over answers at a later time. Right now, I want to see what you can do on your own. A secondary source would be something that's made by someone who did not witness the event. Maybe they did some research on the initial event and then they wrote about it or they did something with it. So the textbooks that we use in school are mostly secondary sources. An encyclopedia. Most of you probably don't use paper encyclopedias, but the ones that you find online. Current newspaper articles, a documentary, magazine articles, biographies, nonfiction books are typically secondary sources. So again, I want you to do the same thing that you did with primary sources and match up the words in green with their definition. See if you can figure that out. And this will kind of give me a good idea as to where you're at. From there, I actually want you to watch a video. The video is going to talk about sources as it relates to the civil rights movement in our country. So you'll notice, though, my recording is going to stop shortly, but the Pear Deck doesn't. The following slides are going to ask you to write out your response of the difference between a primary source and a secondary source. And then I want you to start thinking about those things. So I'm going to give you examples of something. For example, a photograph from Queen Elizabeth II's coronation. And this is where you're going to practice dragging the dot. You can drag the dot to, is that considered a primary source or a secondary? So from here, I want you to continue on with the Pear Deck. Let me know if you have any questions. You know how to reach me. Email. My Google phone number is listed on the Team Element website. If you are trying to reach me between now and 2:30, I will get back to you pretty quickly. And then after that, I will get back to you the next school day. So I encourage you to do your best. Take your time and let me know if you have any questions. Have a good day.